Okay, welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for June 7th, 2021. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of May 17th, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Do I have a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of resolution number 2862, supporting the Oklahoma Department of Transportation's efforts to reconstruct U.S. Highway 69 into a 7-lane configuration along the existing route, or take other necessary action.
Mayor Coleman.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we are very fortunate to have a newly constructed Highway 69 from Border to Okmulgee in process. This all-new concrete 7-lane highway furthers our efforts to develop critical retail, possibly industrial areas along the main corridor in Muskogee. As Mr. Chris Wallace is here to make presentation, he will also explain that we are including signalized crossings for pedestrian safety when traveling from east to west. Mr. Wallace will make his presentation, and then we will entertain a motion to proceed with the resolution. Please welcome from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, Mr. Chris Wallace.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me this evening. Again, my name is Chris Wallace. I'm with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation out of the office here in Muskogee. Come to you tonight, looking back through the records, it was almost 2 years ago that under Mayor Boydstrom, we started all working together on a plan for what 69 through town was going to look like. The project is going to be 2.7 miles. It goes roughly from Haddock north all the way to Okmulgee Street. There's really kind of two different areas in it, from Haddock up to Border. The south end of the project will primarily be removing and replacing exactly what's there. Still be four-lane divided, still have medians. But the big area that we've probably spent the most time working on is really from Border north. From Border north, again, we've in that last 2 years, we've been working with the city, had the mayor, Mr. Miller, and now Commissioner Coburn, who's been helping us with the project. We developed for that section, that north section, we developed 2 different concepts. We developed a divided 6-lane, which essentially would have just taken the existing shoulder that's out there right now and turned that into a lane. And then we developed a 7-lane concept. And the 7-lane concept, again, adding that additional lane on the outside, but putting a center left turn lane where we can down the middle. We took that to the public back in January and received public comments. In general, everyone was supportive of the 7-lane. So from that point, we've moved further with that to the plan that we've got here tonight. And in the plan, and sorry for such a big layout, it's a big project. In the area, there's just a lot of details. The main thing I'll point out to you is in that you'll see, well, I guess starting there at Border, the big differences are at Border. Border's actually kind of a hill right there. So we're looking to take that section down about 3 feet. And then as you go north under the old railroad bridge, we'll be removing the old railroad bridge and raising that area up about 5 feet. Now that's potentially, or more than potentially, the way to do that, you'll see on here we've got some, it looks like, lanes that shifted out to the side and come back in. As we looked at that further, you know, those slopes are something that we struggle with the stability of just on a general day, especially when it rains. So what we've had to look at is to actually go in there and do that work. We're going to have to close the highway for, we're thinking, 5 to 10 days. During that time, we'll detour traffic east on Peak, up north on 165, and then back on Shawnee Bypass. But that's due to, again, you can't really put a good detour in there. That old railroad structure, the type of structure it is, it's called a rigid frame. It's not safe to really take half of it down and have traffic under the other half. There's a potential it could actually kind of go over like a deck of cards. So that'll be the detour. And like I said, we'll be removing that 3 foot there on Border, Border, filling in that 5 foot and going from there north to Okmulgee. From that point, we will have sidewalks on both sides of the road going all the way up to Okmulgee. We'll be looking to put in crosswalks at both Okmulgee Street and at the signal at our line. You'll see as you continue to look at this going forward, there's some areas that are highlighted in orange, and what those are raised dividers, and that's similar to what you'll see near Quick Trip, where there's a concrete divider at the stoplights or at major city street intersections to keep traffic divided. But that's kind of the general idea for the most of it. We've been able to work quite a bit to minimize any additional right-of-way. There will be some that will be needed for the project, but primarily most of the additional right-of-way that we're going to need is going to be under a utility easement because it'll be for moving the utilities out. So what we're looking to do now is, after looking for a city resolution, we'll start moving forward with our right-of-way. The goal will be to actually put those utilities underneath the parking lots in most of those areas. And so we'll be going in, talking to those business owners and actually acquiring an easement from them that we can put the utilities in, but then the parking lots can maintain in place or be built back on top of those. So that way no one's losing any parking. Right now, we are looking at the project being an expected cost of about $35 million. For just the construction, which is in 2024. We're hopeful if we can complete all of our environmental paperwork to get underway with the very beginning of our right-of-way utility phase, which we're estimating that to cost about $5 million. Now, even though I say this year, the very first 3-4 months of our right-of-way and utility phase is going through courthouse records, making sure who owns what and to what extents everybody owns. And so realistically, property owners would not actually start seeing someone till possibly the middle of next year. But that's the majority of it. Like I said, just happened to notice it's been 2 years come July that we started working on this with the city. City's been a great partner, as well as having our now commissioner, former Mayor Coburn, as our highway commissioner, been a great asset to us as we've come to this point. Any questions I can answer or any other details?
Mr. Wallace,
Yes, sir.
why don't you briefly talk about those signalized crossings?
So the signals within the area, we're looking to replace all of the signals. And right now, the city owns the signals that are out there. In general, the way that ODOT and cities and signals works is that ODOT will pay for the signals to be in place, such as we have on the existing signals. Then we turn them over to the city. And the city is in charge of any and all maintenance to the signal as well as the timing of them. And when I say the timing, I mean how long, each phase of the lights are. The system we'll be putting in, like I said, the new signals. They'll be obviously a lot more newer, a little more high tech than what's there now, and we'll be able to modify the timing of those signals as the vehicles progress forward to try and optimize and move traffic through a little bit forward. As it is now, the signals that are out there on 69 do not talk to each other. They're all independently operated. Except for the two at Okmulgee and Border, and those kind of talk to each other. But with the new system, they will all work together. But yeah, we will work towards having, like I said, having sidewalk on both sides, which will be connected to the new pedestrian bridge that goes over 69. We're expecting to hopefully have a lot of foot traffic back and forth, and for the people who do use it, they'll have a place to walk and they'll have a couple of places to cross. One other point I didn't mention is right now with the existing railroad crossing structure that works as a pedestrian bridge, it's very low. On general, our lowest minimum height we like to see for a bridge to that bottom of that beam is 16.5 feet. I believe that one is somewhere around 14. The problem that creates is anytime there's overheight and oversized loads here coming through Muskogee, they actually detour onto city streets to get around that bridge. Once we have this in place, that'll no longer be a concern. Everybody will be able to stay under 69.
And
Sorry,
we will.
I hope I answered your question, but I think I got off track.
You're fine. And on the same note with those heavy vehicles, the city at its discretion will at that point will be able to impose direction along our routes to encourage those big rigs to stay on 69 and not go through the city.
Right.
And on the pedestrian crossings, I know we're going to do one at our line. I'll remind our audience where the other one will be
At Okmulgee,
at Okmulgee.
yes, sir.
And we do believe that these pedestrian crossings will be better than what we have now.
Yes, right now, you know, the way if you go out there and watch the traffic, because there are no dedicated pedestrian crossings, there's none at all through the entire corridor. So what you end up with is individuals who are going across the road kind of run out into the median, they kind of wait, and they kind of run across. Hopefully, having a signalized, well-marked out crosswalk will give them a safer alternative than just trying to dart across traffic.
On the note of our line, is that do we have any status on the come and go convenience store?
We're hoping, oh, sorry.
Just go ahead.
We're hoping, right now, the come and go is the only right-of-way that we see as a potential that the state would have to actually acquire. And the main reason that would be is if any of our utilities or the utility relocations interfered with the underground tanks. As we move forward with this, and our utility relocations, we'll start working with those utilities that are in that area to see if we can get them into a different location, possibly across the street, and better know exactly where those underground tanks are to hopefully, we're going to do everything we can to avoid acquiring that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace, for your presentation. Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to consider the resolution?
I move for approval.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval of ordinance number 4123A, amending Chapter 22, Business Regulations, Section 22-675, General Requirements, repealing subsection 22-675O, thereby restricting smoking and vaping of medical marijuana at city-owned or operated facilities, providing for repealer, severability, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mayor Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, to members of the committee. On this item, I'm responding tonight from concerns that many families have expressed regarding the use of medical marijuana at public parks as they are related to cannabis events. And as a result of those concerns, my motion, should it be approved by this body, would be as follows. To amend proposed ordinance number 4123-A by modifying section N, additional regulations, subsection 2 and section O, medical marijuana events held at city-owned or operated facilities, all within City Code 22-675, to read as follows. Smoking and vaping marijuana shall be prohibited on all city properties, including vehicles, buildings, parks, or other facilities, except for provided in section O. Medical marijuana events held at Hatbox Field or the Civic Center. Smoking and vaping medical marijuana on city property shall be limited to either the southwest area of Hatbox Field or the south parking lot of Muskogee Civic Center, and only during medical marijuana events. Furthermore, insofar as the provisions within the medical marijuana use policy and permit requests adopted April 12, 2021 do not conflict with this section, they shall remain in effect until amended. Mr. Tucker can help me with basic language that basically what this motion does on tonight is restrict the use of medical marijuana in public parks, but it does allow for it to take place for medical marijuana events that will be held at the Muskogee Civic Center South parking lot, as well as the southwest area of the Hatbox Field. And Madam Chair, that would be my motion on tonight.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes, Mr. Van.
Mayor, you were doing real good when you started out reading about not having it on our facilities at all, and that's what I think it should be. You shouldn't have that stuff at Hatbox. You shouldn't have it at the Civic Center. It should be just banned, period. We already have smoking You can't smoke on city property. You can't vape on city property. Our city employees, they cannot use it. If they got a card, they can't use it on their job. So this right here is kind of a little different than what we talked about, and I just don't agree with it. It don't need to be on city property at all, period. You know, I don't know what it's going to take to wake us up here. But just that incident that happened on Broadway and that incident that happened at the other dispensary on Main Street, that should have woke us, everybody up here, should have woke us all up here. Because it was a mess. But you come back with this right here, no, we don't want it, we want it at the Civic Center. We want it here at Hatbox so they can smoke there. If it goes like it did in that little private, well, not the private, it was a concert. And we all know what I'm talking about. That's just wrong. It should be include every facility that our city owns. You know, I just have a hard time comprehending that. You know, I don't know if it's people out there that's pushing for this to be like this, but I vote on my conscience and I vote what's right. And this right here tonight, I thought we had an agreement for it to be on everything, not leave nothing out. But I see you're going to change the ball game on me again. You know, it's sitting up here as a councilman is a hard, hard job. I'm telling you. But I just think fair is fair, and it should be that way. Okay, I'll give you another example. At the Civic Center, oh, they're going to open a tent. They tried it over here at the Arrowhead Mall. Remember that little incident? Didn't put the tent far enough away from the door. They had to move it. Okay, at the Civic Center, you move it over to the parking lot. You still got the grow house and the old post office. We ain't addressed that issue yet, good, but we're gonna do this. And you know how downtown Muskogee looks. We want people to come to our city. We want people to come to our city to be employed and have businesses here. And I know y'all don't take them down there downtown. Y'all couldn't because it stinks. Smells just like marijuana all over Muskogee. For it's downtown. That's a disgrace right there in itself. I just don't seem to understand it. You know? So I disagree with what you done proposed. There ain't nothing like we talked about. I just hate to get somebody to get me up here. We talk about one thing, then at the last minute of the hour, something changes. I should have known. Oh, I should have known. Something told me. It wasn't going to go with everything included. I just don't understand it. I'll turn the floor back over to you, man, because Ms. Hibbs, because
We
like I
have
say,
a
this is
motion and a second. Any more
ridiculous.
discussion?
I just want to make clear, so vote yes would be to adopt this, and this would be for just the parks only. That's what we're doing. And so I just wanted to, you know, make sure that I'm clear that when I vote no, I'm not voting no because I agree. I'm voting for my original conscience on the marijuana issue. We are stewards of city properties. That's what we've always said. We are stewards of city properties. And as Councilor Van said, the calls that we receive were to repeal the whole ordinance, period. And so that includes all city facilities. And so my vote no is not because I'm saying, yes, I agree with smoking in the parks. I believe medical marijuana should be used for medical marijuana uses only in, you know, and not on our city properties. That's the only thing that I'm, you know, what happens on private properties, I have no vote on that. I'm talking about city properties in which we are stewards and elected officials to guide and to guard. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood, you know, where the no vote is coming from.
Mr. Tucker, would you mind telling us yes vote and no vote?
Yeah, well, let me back up just a little bit. So, by way of history, very recently, we had, a couple of years ago, we adopted an ordinance which prohibited the use of vaping and smoking medical marijuana on all city property. Recently, we passed an amendment which would allow the use of medical marijuana at city-owned and operated facilities. That was passed back in November. From that time, the Parks Board has proposed regulations which would limit those public facilities where smoking and vaping marijuana may occur, and that is only during medical marijuana events, which were defined as those which are open to the public, held primarily for educational purposes, and or expected to be attended by no less than 50 individuals. And it was limited to Hatbox, the south parking lot of the Civic Center, the Civic Center South, the Honor Heights Park Pavilion, the Event Lawn, the Honor Heights Amphitheater were also as additional locations where medical marijuana usage would be permitted for medical marijuana educational events. The ordinance that is in your packet that was proposed would repeal that most recent ordinance, which would allow it at those specified facilities. So within your packet, if you read your packet, the ordinance that was included in there, which is 4123, would repeal allowing medical marijuana events to allow smoking or vaping on any city property. So what is being offered in lieu of that is an amendment to this proposed ordinance that's in your packet. And so, as the mayor says, in his amendment, it would allow smoking and vaping of medical marijuana on city property, which is the southwest area of Hatbox Field, south parking lot of the Muskogee Civic Center, and only during medical marijuana events as were defined previously by the rules and regulations that were adopted by the council. So a yes vote would be to adopt Mayor Coleman's amendment, which would allow the smoking and vaping of marijuana at Hatbox Field and Civic Center, and would reinforce the provisions that were adopted by this council on April 12th. A no vote would be to reject the amendment.
And a yes note would ban it at all public parks,
Other than those two
other
specified,
than those
correct.
specified.
You know, I'm all for banning it against the parks. I understand. You called us tonight on the catch-22. You know, we can take it out of the parks, but we can't take it away from the Civic Center, and we can't take it away from Hatbox, where the big party is going to be. That's what the big parties is going to be. If you bring a band or something like that, and you do it just like they did down there on Broadway, blocking that street off, throwing all of those blunts in the audience and cussing and fussing, that ain't about nothing. Have we forgot that? I guess we have. I guess none of us all seen them videos. We want that at Hatbox. We want that at our Civic Center. Something's wrong up here, people. Something is wrong. Really. That should not be allowed, period, in the city of Muskogee. So I know when I vote no, I know it's going to, it'll come out the parks, which is good, but it's still going to be on those other two facilities where they really can party. We can bring Rockahoma here then, or whoever. I want to make plain and simple. I am not against marijuana. Marijuana helps people here in Muskogee, Oklahoma, if it's done properly, as medical use, not party use. What I've seen so far is party use. Everybody needs to know about that plant, because that plant can help you. It makes salve for your back. It makes pills for different things. Oh, I've done my homework. I told you I took care of a lady that needed it on her back.
Councilor Van's getting off topic.
Okay, Councilman, I must be getting next to you then. But anyway, I'll leave it like this then. I think it's wrong for y'all to vote not to have it, to close it down on all our city facilities and just leave the Civic Center. Well, like I say, I don't think y'all done anything about the post office. Y'all don't even probably know nothing about that, really, besides what we talk about it up here when I say something. But just need to do your homework. Let's make Muskogee a better place.
Okay,
Not a dope head, not a dope head place. But I'll turn the floor over, 'cause I know y'all tired of me talking, but you know I'm right. I'll turn the floor back over to you,
Motion and a
Ms. Hill.
second.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
No.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
No.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 4, please.
Receive report on the status of the athletic fields at Love Hatbox Sports Complex and take other necessary action.
Mayor Coleman.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, by way of report only on tonight, let me say in response to the many concerns that have been expressed by several of our residents that as a city as well as a council, we are not oblivious to the needed repairs of improvements to Hatbox Fields. The fields are in need of repairs, and in this council, we have pledged our commitment to direct the necessary resources to improve the quality of the fields and encourage tournament play that draws larger audiences, more teams, and makes Muskogee a hub for tournament play. We do not have all the answers on tonight. Staff is investigating all of our possibilities, while we as council also investigate our financial responsibilities and those funds that we can or cannot pledge towards that event. We believe that we are working towards productive results that will create a paradigm shift in the way we do business at Hatbox Field. Discussions are ongoing. We will not lend ourselves to the recommendations that produced the results of the past. The city is committed at every level to this process, and we will provide monthly updates through this venue until we are done. We want to remind all of our residents and all of those who are concerned about the condition of the fields, we are doing everything we can through discussion, through recommendations, and as we progress, we will make the necessary recommendations to be certain that we don't repeat the errors of the past. We have had several meetings on last week. We will continue to have those meetings, and when we have more concrete solutions, we will make a recommendation to the body before we proceed. So that is my report on tonight, Madam Chair.
So we need no action on that item. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Muskogee and Muskogee Nation for a partnership for a potential future road project or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is an opportunity for partnership with Muskogee Nation. To work on a road, they have to have it within their tribal road inventory. They've asked to take in about 0.6 miles of Davis Field Road there out near the airport, right along, right up to the border of their tribal nation and Cherokee Nation, to allow them to work on those potentially in the future. This is not a guarantee that they will, but it allows them to work with us on cooperative projects in the future. It is our street to maintain now, so there's no downside to us, but it is an opportunity for us to partner with Muskogee Nation, and we do recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mike, can you explain what you mean take in?
So that road is within the geographical boundaries of Muskogee Nation. And so they have, as part of their federal roads program, they have an inventory of roads that they maintain or that they're allowed to do projects on. Just like the state highway system has roads they work on and they don't. And our highway people just left, but there's certain streets highway department works on and streets that they don't. So this basically, they maintain their inventory and they can add streets and roads to their inventory. Right now, that part of Davis Field Road is not on their inventory, and this allows it to be on their inventory. So that's what I mean by taking in. It's on their list is what I meant by that.
Okay. And they'll maintain that section, correct?
They have the opportunity to partner with us. It's still our street.
Okay.
The ownership of the street doesn't change. It's still our street, but it allows us to be a partner with them on projects moving forward.
Thank you, Mike.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 6, please.
Consider the appointment of Wayne Johnson to the Martin Luther King Community Trust Authority, filling the expired term of Kenny Payne beginning August 1, 2021, and ending on September 30, 2026, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Stout.
Yes, Mr. Johnson is interested in serving on the Martin Luther King Community Trust, and he will be a great asset to that trust, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Irie Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Abstain.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 7.
Consider approval of City Council Policy 3-3-7, emergency paid sick leave, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Cox?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, this policy in front of you this evening is a revision to our current emergency paid sick leave policy. Our current emergency paid sick leave policy allows paid COVID leave unlimited for employees when they are experiencing symptoms of COVID, are being tested for COVID, are under a quarantine, or if they're hospitalized. We have found that the unlimited leave is putting extra work on other employees and leaving us shorthanded in some areas. So we would like to limit that leave to 12 weeks of paid leave instead of the unlimited leave. Happy to answer any questions, and I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes, Mr. Van.
Do we have any employees that had COVID?
Have we had?
I know we have employees that had COVID.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any employees that are still out, that
Yes,
are
sir.
getting paid?
Yes. We
They
do.
still got COVID? How long, I mean,
We can't confirm that they have COVID. COVID has long-lasting effects for some folks. They're called COVID long haulers, and the people that have experienced those symptoms have been out several months. In some cases,
you still get, like, when you're working as an employee, you still get your vacation pay, your vacation time and your sick leave built up too?
yes, sir, that's
So it
correct.
just still keeps rolling even though you're getting, you got COVID?
Correct. And we would like to try to limit that to be 12 weeks of paid COVID leave. And when the 12 weeks ceases, then we advise them that they need to use their paid sick leave or their vacation leave, and also request a extended leave of absence to our city manager. In most cases, that is a 6-month approval in total, because FMLA is 12 months as well. So we would like to allow them their full 12 weeks, not 12 months, 12 weeks of FML. But if they can't return after that 12 weeks, then we allow them the additional weeks, which is 14, for a total of 26 weeks total of paid leave or unpaid leave. Paid leave would be their accruals, or unpaid leave would just be extended leave of absence.
Okay, now do they have to have some kind of doctor's statement or something and say they still got COVID?
Yes, sir. It's not a statement that says they still have COVID. It says that they cannot return to work due to the effects of COVID.
So we still, like I say, we still got employees out, you said, right?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Okay, and we're getting ready to go down to 12 weeks.
Correct.
Those employees that are still out, they still go the extended?
If they have,
plan?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, under the old plan, they still can stay out as long as they,
If they have already utilized their 12 weeks,
Okay.
That's a good question, then they would, their paid leave would expire. If they are, let's say they were gone 2 weeks ago and their leave is only 2 weeks, then they would have an additional 10 weeks, potentially, of paid COVID leave. But if they have already utilized that 12 weeks, their leave would cease upon city council approval.
so they had to come back to work or stay home without pay?
No.
Or use their accruals.
Yeah, so the important part is that, this is, what we're talking about is additional leave on top of sick leave and vacation leave. And so this 12 weeks is additional leave that the city's generously given to employees that they have not had to use their accrued sick leave up to this time. So after this 12 weeks, they can still then use any sick leave that they have as paid leave.
Okay.
And they can use vacation leave as paid leave, subject to leave of absence availability, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So just to be clear, and I think Kelly had said it well, but your paid extra leave ends at 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
But any leave that you have is still your leave. And if you have paid leave available, it still may be that you can use that to get back to health.
And you can use the sick leave, and you can also, if you run out of that, you can go to your vacation leave? and then still stay out, correct?
Potentially.
Yes.
FML is family medical leave, which is a guaranteed issue of 12 weeks of leave. If they cannot return after that 12 weeks, there is the potential for the employee to request an extended leave of absence for a total of 6 months, which has historically been approved. If they have their accruals of sick or vacation, they can utilize those accruals if the manager approves their extended leave of absence. If they don't have their accruals available, then it would be unpaid leave. Or we have a vacation leave sharing policy, which also would allow anybody with vacation accruals, or if they're vested in their sick leave, to potentially donate their leave to that other employee. So if that employee doesn't have their own leave, there are other options available as well.
Okay. I was just asking these questions, Kelly, because I hate to see people abuse the system, you know. And I'm pretty sure our employees would do that, but I'm just saying.
We want something fair that will, treat the employees well, but also get them back to work if they're able to.
Okay. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion passes. We have one person signed up to speak, and that is our mayor.
Madam Chair, Marlon Coleman, 500 West Broadway, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I want to take this opportunity to remind all of our citizens that we are quickly approaching the day where we are back to normal routine activities. And this week coming up is a prime example of that as we enter into the chili cook-off season. We want to take this opportunity to compliment all of the organizers of the chili cook-off for their efforts and their diligence to be certain that they have an event that is open to the public on this year. On Thursday night, June 11th, that is the Cook's Party. The Cook's Party is open to the public. At that time, I will give an opening presentation, modified version rather of the State of the City that includes our activities, our celebrations, and then opening up the city as we fast-tracked ourselves to trying to receive some sense of normalcy. The chili cook-off event takes place on Saturday morning, the actual event. It's an all-day event at Hatbox Field. This is a change of venue compared to where it was in times past. I just wanted to take this opportunity to announce that to the public and encourage everyone to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this concludes our Public Works agenda for tonight.
Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for June 7th, 2021. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of May 17th, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Reviewing of the minutes, are there any corrections or additions to our minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve our minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 1 passes. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments May 8th, 2021 through May 28th, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Report from the Purchasing Committee.
Yes, the purchasing committee did meet this afternoon, and we approved all the claims, and we move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve our claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 2 passes. Item number 3, please.
Hold a public hearing to discuss the City of Muskogee budget for fiscal year 2021, 2022, and take other necessary action.
We will now open up the agenda for a public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Mike Miller.
Thank you, sir. What we have before you in several different forms is a proposed budget, and this is the culmination of a lot of work by our finance staff. I want to recognize Gene Kingston, our treasurer, and Marcy Gillum, who've done a tremendous amount of work, Jennifer Sweezy, who's been very valuable in this process as assistant city manager. And first and foremost, of course, the city council, who's given the direction that is hopefully reflected here in this document. What we're going to try and do tonight as quickly as possible, but also realizing this is our strategic document for the year, as we look forward to the next year. We're going to take a minute to recognize the things that we have done well and celebrate. And again, I know, Mayor, you're going to do that Thursday night, but what we've done this current fiscal year, look at the process for how we do our budget, just as a reminder, also a reminder on our reserve, update on our current status, our strategic initiatives, the progress that we've made since the retreat, and then discuss specifics within the budget packet. Our list of successes from 2021 is very long, and we won't go through all of them, but some are in process, some are completed. Station 3 Senior Center, you see at the bottom there on the left-hand column, we poured the asphalt for the parking lot this last week. We had solar panels installed at the Civic Center. You just heard about the Highway 69 expansion. These are all things that we worked on this week. This year we had COVID-19. We were the first city to mail out masks to our citizens as an effort to try and be proactive. We had a lot of success on strategic initiatives as well. Our Southeast Zone streets, our first round of the CIP street package, which is the Northeast Zone, which is a $6 million project. Those are currently underway, and we will have another bid package coming shortly for additional work in the Northeast Zone. We had some city-county joint projects. We did emergency street repairs. We did a resurfacing project between Chandler and Gibson as well. So that $6 million that the CIP that the citizens passed and that the foundation is matching at $2 million a year lets us do some neighborhood streets that we hadn't ever really been able to do. We've just been struggling to get by with our old $2 million a year budget, and so we're excited about being able to do that. As we look forward, we know that the fiscal year budget that we're looking at here, this is the street maintenance program put on by our street committee. Northwest Zone is the next zone, and that will be in the budget that we're looking at this year. We also had a lot of other infrastructure successes, including 30-inch water line. The mayor and I personally put all those solar panels on top of the Civic Center. You can see that from that picture right there. But no, that is in place. We are again leading the way for other cities as far as our being able to use renewable energy and reduce our bills at the same time. Muskogee looking ahead to the future as well as honoring our past. We had a Civitan Park splash pad and pavilion, about a $500,000 project, entirely grant funded. We had one of the first major vaccine pods in the state of Oklahoma that we were able to do and host here, thanks to our emergency management. I see Tyler in our audience tonight, and the mayor and police, fire, several volunteer organizations to make Muskogee one of the leaders in addressing COVID through vaccines. We dealt with Winter Storm Uri, our record low temperatures and the water leaks and the pavement issues that it caused. As we talked about, maybe a year's worth of water leaks in came in just 2 or 3 weeks with that cold weather. And then you guys have approved us to use our reserve for storm damage. So we want to just pause here and say thank you, because I don't know that the public realizes what goes into the work that council members do. They don't get paid. They deal with a whole lot, and they make the decisions that let us do all that work. And so as we look to the future, as we look at our budget, I want you to know I'm going to be talking a lot tonight, but this is a reflection of the work the council's been doing all year long. A lot of them worked through the weekend. I got calls through the weekend looking at the budget, saying, here's this, here's that. Make sure you cover this when we go over it with the group, because they put in time. They put a lot of effort into what you have before you here today is about a 200-page budget, and they take it very seriously. And so I want everybody to know that as we go through this meeting tonight, this is not just us coming up with something on the fly. This is a lot of work by the council and staff as well. Our budget process is the departments start in early March. We review it and have meetings through April, discussions with the council, and a retreat in April and May. And then the council's job is to implement the budget in June, and our job is to hopefully present the budget in a way that sums up what has been requested by the council. Our current status is that we published our budget summary in the newspaper as required on June 2nd. We have a hearing today in committee. We do 2 public hearings. The law only requires us to do 1, but we do 2 to to have extra layers of transparency. So next week, based off of the feedback we get tonight, we will try and adopt our annual budget for fiscal year 2022, which starts July 1. One of the things council members have asked me to address tonight, more than one, is to talk about our reserve policy. And really that is what happens with the money that we don't spend or if we have money left at the end of the year. And so I just want to remind you, our friends at the Oklahoma Municipal Mutual Assurance Group, our insurance company, came. You guys were here last month, and they said we have the best reserve fund policy in the state. And so what we're getting ready to tell you is something that other cities look at, and they try to do what we're already doing and what you guys have already put in place. That we get that reserve policy by following these budget principles. Our expenses less than our revenue. We budget for good surprises. And that number 4, the mid-year budget review, is very important. And so we'll talk about what that means. I want to talk about vocabulary real quick on this. Reserve fund, stabilization reserve. Sometimes I use those words interchangeably. I probably shouldn't. When I say those words, what I really mean is our savings account, right? It's the money we have set aside for emergencies. And so what goes into that savings account is at the end of the year, any money that we saved on expenses, we said we're going to buy something for $1 and only cost us 90 cents. Or if we said we were going to get $1 in sales tax and we got $1.05. All that money, it goes into this fund that's controlled by the city council and only spent by the city council. And you guys outlined that process through a series of ordinances. So in 2018, you guys put a best practice into place to have a municipal reserve of at least 20%. And then an automatic way to build that up over time to a best practice really of 30% of the budget. You've amended that 2 or 3 times to try and strategize and make sure that that happens. And through budget amendments every year, as you guys have become accustomed, in late November, early December, we go through this process. And here's what it is. Again, we have an ordinance set by you to do 20% of a minimum and a standard of 30% and a formula that gets us to that point. So this is an example of where we started. When we started, we had a 10.4% budget reserve, which was less than half what a best practice was. And what you see there is where we are today. We've increased it over time. We're down to about 17%. Keep in mind, that's with 3 national emergencies, and FEMA hadn't really paid us much of anything for any of them yet. So we do feel like that will bounce back, but that shows the strength of where we're at. Here's what the formula is. It says we use 75% of any of that leftover money, and we apply that towards the reserve until that reserve reaches 20%, that minimum level. So if we save money, if we have extra money come in that we weren't expecting, until we reach that minimum, we save it pretty aggressively. The other 25% is available for appropriation for one-time expenses as the council prioritizes. That money cannot get spent until you guys decide where it goes. And the formula says once the reserve reaches 20%, the carryover in future years will increase the reserve by at least 1% until the reserve reaches 30%, and then after that, it's up to the council. Do you want to put more money in the savings account or not? Reminder, we've used that reserve policy to fund COVID-19, some real-world disasters. Got the water treatment plant there in blue in that circle before and during the flood, and we're still paying out on those. And so here's how this works in reality. Again, a reminder, fiscal year ends June 30th. We have until September 30th if people send us invoices late to kind of close out the fiscal year, right? The last checks that we can write are around September 30th. Then in October, we kind of do the calculations and see where did we end up, our financial performance. November, we present it to council, and in December, the council passes an amended budget. And so, again, we use this formula. I'm not going to go through it again, but I'm going to show you how that played out this year. This year, it took our stabilization account up at that time to $7.5 million. And that was a very good place to be at that time. We've spent about $1 million out of it since then because of the emergencies that we've talked about. And then the rest of it got appropriated by the city council. And so when somebody asks me what happens to the money that doesn't get spent, it goes into a special projects fund or the reserve based off that formula. And then the council approves what we do with it. And so this is just a quick review of some of the things we did last year. I'm not going to go over the whole thing because it was your decision, but we looked at the strategic priorities there on your screen. We did a $1,000 pre-tax stipend for employees right around Christmas time. We did extra Christmas baskets for employees. We did infrastructure projects, including a swim and fitness dehumidifying system that's just recently been installed at the Swim and Fitness Center. We were able to help out some of our facilities that had a shortfall because of COVID and couldn't be open like they were usually able to. Other cities couldn't do that because they didn't have this reserve fund and they didn't have this special project fund. We spent more than $1.4 million just on that category. Public safety initiatives, including a fence around the police department parking lot, was another initiative. And one of the things council wanted us to do last year was some last minute Christmas decorations. And so we did. We were able to fund that through this fund. Again, all because of the savings account, all because of your reserve policy. So again, when somebody says, where's the money go that didn't get spent if we save money in some area? This is where it goes. It doesn't get spent by anybody except you. It goes to you in this process, and then in October, November, December, you guys decide where it goes. And you do that based off your strategic priorities, and it has to come to you before it gets spent. So again, it's all the money saved on the expenses, any revenue higher than we expected, and you guys decide where that money goes. Now I'm going to start looking ahead to our budget for this year. Again, I'm covering stuff that you guys have told me you want covered, but our strategic initiatives are the driving force. We've talked some about those at the retreat. Streets and infrastructure, far and away, the number one initiative from the council's feedback. Public image, far and away, number two. And economic development, housing, and tourism, also very strong strategic priorities. What you see in green here are items that the council specifically has requested that we do, and we've gone through after our retreat and added and moved things around in the budget to make sure we're addressing streets and infrastructure. We do have more than $10 million set aside for street projects next year. Due to the leaks and the water line breaks caused by the storm, we've added a lot more money to a water line contracting budget this year than we've had before. We've got more stormwater initiatives than we've had before. I've updated this. We've got $35 million in water and sewer upgrades that are either completed or in progress, and we've got 10 more that are in the design phase. So the council has put a lot of money into that strategic initiative, and this budget reflects that. Public image, you see those things there, and then specifically the US 69 cleanup and image campaign, trail maintenance, and community cleanup are important and funded in this budget. Economic development efforts, and we'll go through that when we get to that budget. Housing with infill opportunities. Basically, if we tear houses down, we want to make sure we're building them back in those same neighborhoods so that our city's able to grow. Tourism was a strategic initiative, and this budget helps fund the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame, the Three Rivers Museum, Hatbox Event Center, and the Batfish. Some of the initiatives, we're able to use more than double the amount available for the Tourism Authority, which is a new structure, less than a year old, that the council has put in place. So we're proud to be able to increase funding there. We have a new tourism director, and they had the Tourism Authority had a very good retreat last Thursday and set a lot of direction. Council also recommended dedicating capital outlay funding for the Roxy, Three Rivers, and the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame in the amount of about $15,000 for each of those entities, and that is reflected in the budget in front of you. Other things mentioned at the retreat, additional signage and refurbishing existing signage out at Hatbox Sports, additional funding for the sports complex itself. The mayor alluded to field maintenance being a higher priority and one that we're putting money to. Parking lot at Robinson Park near the skate park area there on Augusta and Gulick. Christmas baskets, we talked about that being a one-time event paid out of our special projects fund. Well, if it's not a one-time event, it needs to go into our regular budget, and the council expressed a willingness to continue that initiative to show appreciation to employees. And parking lot at the King Center through our CIP program. As you look through the budget book, we do have lots and lots of labels. Some of them make a lot of sense. Some of them are left over from a bygone era, but we want you guys to give us a little bit of patience as we go through. Again, all the budget is based off those strategic initiatives. As we go through the book, we have kind of the introduction section and some demographics on page 9 that just tell us about our community, about who we are. As we get to the funds, we've got you can get a good overview on page 16 of your book of all the funds that the city has, and those are outlined in detail as we go through. The general fund is our largest fund. Each fund has kind of its own funding mechanism, one or more ways that the money goes into that fund, and then they have their own rules for how that money can be spent. So page 19, we have kind of the expenditures by fund. Again, those details are throughout this 200-page document. General fund is on page 23. And so there's a lot of time we want to spend on the general fund or a significant portion. You can see that at the bottom of page 23 are between taxes and water and sewer rates. That is about 80 to 90% of the money that we have that comes in to pay for our government. Some of that's restricted. You see kind of where it comes from on page 24, the different kinds of things, taxes, water, sewer revenue, even some interest revenue and all those things. I think it's important if you look on page 25, you'll see where we spend the money. So about $1 in $5 goes to police. Almost that same amount goes to fire. The next couple of things that you'll see are public works and engineering. Engineering is one of those labels that we talked about before. It really means water and sewer kind of things. That's about, between those two, about 28% of our budget as well. So you can see the budget priorities are reflected in that area. If you look at some of the assumptions that we made going into this budget, we budgeted to use reserves last year during COVID. During uncertain times, we didn't have to, and we're not doing that this year. Our sales tax is up this year, and we're projecting our revenue to be basically flat. From that much higher than usual number this year. Use tax flat from last year's budget. We didn't quite hit those numbers. We were too optimistic on use tax last year. And we have conservative revenue projections on other ones. We also have expense assumptions that we have to factor in, things that we can't necessarily control. Health insurance costs going up, about reflected in this budget, about 9%. Workers' compensation increase. We did give employees a raise on January 1. Not very many cities were able to do that, but we will be doing that. This year's budget reflects 12 months of that increase rather than 6. So our general fund, there's some numbers. That's what it looks like. It's about $36,846,000. We're budgeting to spend all of it because we got a lot of things we need to do. On page 27 in your book, you can see kind of a breakdown of what we spend our money on. A lot of times it's salary and benefits. If you want to know what we're doing when we are spending our police budget, what we're spending is hiring a police officer. And so that's the service that we're providing. And there is equipment and there is other things that go into that. But a lot of times the service that we're getting and that we're giving to the community is the personnel and the staff. And so the salary and benefits are an important part of what we do. There is the chart that matches that up. Our summary is that we did have conservative expense management. It's driven by our revenue and expense assumptions that we just went over, driven by strategic initiatives, and there's that dollar amount again of what we're trying to spend along those lines. What's in there is more money for the strategic initiatives that the council puts forward. This is the council's budget. More money for streets and infrastructure, more money for community cleanup and image, economic development, housing, and tourism, even though that's through hotel motel tax rather than general fund. I want to go through a few of the other budgets as well, and certainly we'll take questions as we go. Hatbox Enterprise is on page 33 of your handout. This is a budget that's just a good example of how things how things go. It has some grant money. It has some transfers in. It generates some of its own revenue if you look on page 33. And then it has grant money coming in and then grant money going out to help pay for that box hangar or the new arena out there as you look on page 34. This budget kind of operates the events that take place out at Hatbox Arena. So not at the sports complex, not at the water park, but at the new building and the runways out there. Hatbox Sports is reflected on page 36. We have increased our subsidy from the city from $90,000 to $120,000 for additional seasonal help. We also have money available for the upgrades to the fields that would be more of a capital expense. This is an operational budget for the Hatbox Sports Complex. They bring in revenue and they have expense, and we do operate with a subsidy there. If we turn to page 57, we've got a budget that we're going to close out this year because we have no revenue coming in, and we're going to spend this money on a project. This money is for the viaduct. We're going to use it on the Four Corners project that will help us manage the traffic as trains come through downtown. And you guys are aware of that project, and I won't belabor it, but I use this as an example because we talked about different funds may have more than one source of money coming in. Different projects may get paid out of different funds. So this is an example. We're going to pay for the Four Corners project, some out of this fund, some out of CIP money, some out of 2019 CIP money, some out of 2014 CIP money. And so if you look at the 2014 CIP, that's on page 59. There's two projects left. Both of them, we put the money aside looking to use it as matching grant money for other grants. Those are Shawnee and Country Club signal improvements, or the other one besides Four Corners. So that we're going to close this CIP out this year by spending the money on those two projects. If you look on page 63, it's the newer CIP that got passed in 2019. There's funding for public safety, parks improvements, and the Martin Luther King Center parking lot. We've had good discussions with representatives of the King Center just even in the last few weeks about how to proceed with that. Page 68 talks about our CIP, 2019 CIP street improvement tax, dedicated sales tax. And this one is, when I talk about our largest budget that we've had 2 years in a row, only 2 years in the history of Muskogee, we had a $10 million street budget, and that was last year and this year. A big chunk of it is in this budget, thanks to the taxpayers voting for their own the improvements, and the City of Muskogee Foundation matching it. Again, next year we're doing Northwest Zone. We're doing a project along South Country Club, south of Chandler, out of this money. Out of Stormwater, we're doing a project north of Chandler to improve that area. This project will go near Creek Elementary to improve that area. So you see, just real briefly there, again, Northwest Zone is our main area of emphasis. Capital outlay are budgets that are set aside by the voters for specific purpose. We've got one for fire, police, and non-uniform. Fire, we're looking to replace Station 5 on York Street using that fund. On non-uniform, we're looking on page 80 to one of the things that we're trying to do is add that parking lot like we talked about at Robinson Park. CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, is on page 89. That's where we have our water line repair grant and contract. Page 95, and there's basically two budgets in a row, one on 95 and one on 97 that are related to our community cleanup and community development. I believe, Councilor McGee, this was one of the questions you asked me over the weekend, and so I wanted to make sure I highlighted this, that the extra funding there for the community cleanup is in that first budget. The community cleanup budget is really about abatement of nuisances. So that's debris cleanup, trash pickup, mowing, that kind of stuff. And then the second one is community development. That's more for demolition. We, as far as the community cleanup, also some of the foundation grants. The housing rehab grant is in that community development one as well. So the foundation grant that we get for the rehab of homes goes into that community development grant as well. Economic development, it's on page 100. These are items that we've got in the economic development budget this year. As you look on your slide on the screen, it's a $1.2 million set aside by the City Council from our use tax that goes directly for a economic development purpose. Those are some of the general categories. We have talked about, I want to spend a moment there on that second one down. It's possible downtown funding. There's been discussion about a proposal from Main Street Muskogee for funding this year. They did not request funding last year, and they've kind of revitalized, and so we're going to leave money in, or proposing to leave money in the economic development budget and have them come make a presentation about their plan and new direction, and allow the council to work with them through that as far as economic opportunities in downtown. Hotel motel tax, Councilor Stout and I talked a little bit about this. Tourism budget is a little hard to follow, and that's why I've got this slide on the screen, because we've set it up in a fashion where we transfer money from the hotel motel tax to the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority, and then the Redevelopment Authority to the Tourism Authority. So this helps sum up all those budgets on one page, even though we've got it's several pages in here. So these are the venues that we talked about funding: the Batfish, Three Rivers, Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. The rest there, that 516, is what we're transferring to the Muskogee Redevelopment Authority, and then from there to the Muskogee Tourism Authority. And that's the money that's more than twice as much as last year. The other are kind of our subsidy for Hatbox and Balloon Festival. And then there's that capital money that we talked about earlier. So that's kind of a summary of what the tourism money is used for, and it's used through the hotel motel tax budget and the MRA and the Muskogee Tourism Authority budget. I do plan on sending you kind of the draft Muskogee Tourism Authority budget that they passed last week, and you can see how that 516 goes. It's not really in our control here. It's the Tourism Authority's money, should you appropriate it, but they have a proposed budget as well. Capital outlay is a budget seen on page 124. We have devoted the money to some of the items you see there. There's a lot of details as you go through that page. Some of the things we're highlighting are additional street equipment and downtown holiday lighting. MMA is $2.6 million set aside for capital projects and equipment, and that is above and beyond the $45 million I was talking about earlier. So that has extra money for street cuts. A street cut is when we make a utility improvement to a street, but it also means we got to cut into it. We got to fix the water line, got to fix the sewer line. This helps pay for that and keeps our street budget up. Higher amounts for water leak and water line replacement and sewer line replacement than what we've had before. So our strategic initiative summary, again, is more money than ever for water line repairs and streets. New public image and community cleanup initiatives, fully funded economic development plan, increased housing development, funding for our tourism partners while still doubling the tourism authority budget for next year, and increasing those employee morale initiatives that you guys initiated last year. So our next steps, this is where we're at. A public hearing today, June 7th. Next week, we will have our public hearing before the governing body of the city. We will consider this budget and any amendments and thoughts and direction that you give between now and then, and be able to present that and move forward next week with the budget for the city. Thank you for your patience. You guys have put in a lot of hard work, and I tried to sum up 200 pages as quick as I can, and 200 pages is a condensed version of the budget. So I know there's a lot here. I do appreciate your patience. I'd be happy to answer any questions and take any direction.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for the presentation. We will close the public hearing. This time we had no one signed up to speak, but we will open up the floor at this time for council discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Miller, you know what we're talking about. Now, I'm gonna make it a point. Councilman Reynolds will stay on track, like you said. I'm gonna definitely be on track on this. So, we talked about this in council communicate, on the budget, about having something, in our ward, which Ward 3 gets left out a lot. Deputy Mayor brought it up in the budget, in the meeting. And, trying to get the south side of Muskogee, because we don't have a gas station down there on South Main anymore. We don't have food stuff. We're just blank. Anyway, in other words, instead of steak, you give us some crumbs. I don't like crumbs. I want my ward to be just like Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4, with something going on in it. That's one thing. But I didn't hear nothing about that on this presentation, just what we talked about. But I know you said you were talking about economic development.
Yeah, and so forgive me, I went fast, and I might have skipped over that part. And when we were talking about some of our initiatives, so I'll have, and forgive me if I make you dizzy here looking through these, but I think this is what you may have been referring to. That we do, and so forgive me if I skipped over that, but we do have something on as part of our economic development plan for next year, a grant program, a competitive grant program called Choice Initiatives. It's hard to get. Usually, a lot bigger cities get it than we get, but we've got opportunity there, and we're gonna try for that, and then a specific effort to try and recruit commercial development in the south side of the city. And so what we've talked about is there's an economic opportunity fund within the city that has to meet certain criteria that the council has established. We do have economic development tools, and we will use them in any and all areas of town. And so the opportunity there, we do feel like there's an opportunity for people to own their business and make money on the south side of Muskogee, and we want to encourage that to happen.
One more thing. Also, on tourism. I did bring this up during the meeting, and I'm not off track, and I'm pretty sure every councilman and mayor up here remember what I said. So I just want to try to make sure I'm on track tonight. On tourism, I am so glad that the tourism department, this is what we were talking about, what we voted on earlier about the marijuana. You had a dispensary go to tourism wanting $7,500. Yeah. That's what they wanted to put that show on they had down there on Broadway. So the tourism department turned them down, and I'm glad they did. But the thing is, we're going to watch it about the tourism, these people qualifying for these different things, because they'll lie. On that application, they had, now you tell me if I'm off track, because I don't think I am, but they had 3 people down as board members. And come to find out, that was a lie. I'm not going to call the names out. They know who they are. Now, if people do something like that to get marijuana here in Muskogee and lie about application for his city money, what else will they do? What else will other people do? So I hope the people that we got in place for the tourism board is on top of their game and not let people get away with it.
So, Councilor Van, the Tourism Authority Board is appointed by the City Council.
Us.
Yes.
Right. Oh, exactly. One more thing too, the image of Muskogee. That's another thing I'm glad we got on here, because I got an email about the trails. Everybody up here probably got it. It sure look bad, all that trash on our trails. Go down, I think that's Shawnee Street. Go around there, and then you got another street off Fern Mountain Road that's just full of trash, which we have I'm proud of Roy's crew, because when I call them in our ward, anywhere in town I see trash, they go out, the community service goes out and pick it up, and also the people that work on the day shift, You know, they pick it up too. I mean, the community service, I mean by kids. And also the day shift workers. But we need to do better on our image of our city. You know, we definitely need to do better.
Yeah, I agree. And having the pride to not throw the trash there in the first place is what our main goal is, because I think we got a lot of people that try and clean it up. We just need to get people not put it there in the first place.
And I hope and these things that I just brought to y'all's attention, to the community that don't know nothing about what we talk about, and I was on track. And I definitely was on track. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller, on Councilman Van's point on the South Side initiatives, we discussed the choice grants, the choice neighborhoods grants.
Yes.
If we wanted to allow some of that economic development fund to be specifically earmarked for the South Side, will we need to do that prior to approving the budget, or is that something that we can work out in future details?
That would be something we could do in future details, because the money is in the Opportunity Fund can only be spent with council approval.
Okay.
So so it will be there, and it can be addressed in the future.
All right, thank you. Any other budget questions for Mr. Miller?
Mr. Miller, is the draft budget available online for the residents to review?
I believe so. We put it up there, I think, when we published the agenda itself, and I think we put it up separately on the front page of the website.
Thank you.
I'm seeing some heads nod. Good.
Mr. Miller, if I may, to Councilor Reed and Councilor Van's point, the SBA has some particular programs and grants that are out right now that are particularly addressing food deserts and other areas like that. There is a lady named Lainey Porter, I believe is her name, and she's working with the Wagner Farmers Market. I have asked her to come over and talk to us a little bit about some of these, but she's very good at these programs and knows more than most people. However, if we can find some people who would be interested in opening some things over there, I do believe there are quite a few things available right now that would address exactly what you gentlemen are speaking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know anybody, Alex, that have like retail stores that can come on our side of town so we can get back, where we can even buy a suit? You know anybody like that?
I think there's a lot of folks out there who would love to take advantage of the SBA loans and open their business and definitely take advantage of the opportunity to help serve the community as well as start and open a business. And with that, I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Miller.
Any further questions? Are we looking for a motion to accept tonight, or are we going to wait for the next public hearing?
Deputy Mayor, there is no action item. This is just a public hearing.
All right. So with that being said, we'll move on to item number 4, please.
Consider approval of best bid from Hogle plumbing contractor, for maintenance and upkeep of all city facilities and buildings, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Sweeney?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight's contracts, we have 3: electric, mechanical, and plumbing. We have up first is Hogle Plumbing, and there were 2 bids received. Hogle is the same contractor as last year, and they were the lowest. They are local, and we recommend approval, and the purchasing committee approved earlier today.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of low bid from B&R electrical contractor for maintenance and upkeep of all city facilities and buildings, or take other necessary action.
Jennifer?
Thank you. The next contract is for the electrical contractor. There was only 1 bid, therefore they are the best and lowest, and it is the same company as last year. They're also local and approved by the purchasing committee earlier today.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 5 passes. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of lowest and best bid from Gordon's Heat and Air Mechanical Contractor for maintenance and upkeep of all city facilities and buildings, or take other necessary action.
Jennifer?
Yes, the final contract is for mechanical work. This bid was the lowest and best out of 4. Gordon's Heat and Air, they are local. They also work on boilers and chillers, which is an added benefit to our crew. Purchasing Committee approved earlier today, and staff recommends approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion?
You know, we recognize, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've used Gordon's Heating and Air on a lady's house, and I needed a heater, and they've done an outstanding job. And matter of fact, he used to be a city fireman.
Fireman, that's
Yeah,
right.
he does good work. You don't, my word's not much, but like I say, I don't like half-done stuff, and he done a great job.
Very good. Thank you.
Turn the floor back over, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 6 passes. Item number 7, please.
Consider approval of Master Agreement Work Order Number 2 between Olson Incorporated and the City of Muskogee for professional engineering services to design the airfield lighting and signage rehabilitation project, AIP Project Number 3-40-0062-013, or take other necessary action.
Jennifer?
Thank you. This master agreement work order number 2 provides grant administration, engineering, design, and bidding services for the airfield lighting and signage rehab project. It is subject to approval by the FFA once designed, and the city's portion of this engineering cost is 10% of the total fee, which for us is $12,140. That is being funded by the 2019 fiscal year capital improvement funds. The airport board approved this last month, and the purchasing committee approved it earlier today, and staff recommends approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 7 passes. Item number 8, please.
Consider approval to renew a professional services agreement with Ron Wright to provide representation for the City of Muskogee in 4 inverse condemnation lawsuits filed in Muskogee County District Court styled England v. City of Muskogee, case number CV 200720, Lacey v. City of Muskogee, case number CV 20071377, Taft v. City of Muskogee, case number CJ 20071410, Vaughn v. City of Muskogee, case number CJ 20071371, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's that time of year again where we renew all of our yearly professional services agreements and other contracts which are along the lines of the fiscal year. And so I bring these 3 to you tonight that we have for legal services. The first one, which is up, is the renewal of the professional services agreement with Ron Wright. As the council well knows, last year we decided to engage Mr. Wright in lieu of our prior representative, Betty Williams. We've been satisfied with the efforts that Mr. Wright has done on our behalf. If you do look in the body of the agenda item, I did indicate on each of these contracts what was paid out by the city for the prior fiscal year. So for fiscal year 2021, which is the one that's coming out to end, the prior contract had cost us a total of $6,080. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 8 passes. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval of a professional service agreement for the fiscal year 2021-2022 with Michael Gilliard, attorney at law, to provide representation for the city in workers' compensation court or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is to renew our agreement with Mike Gilliard, who has served as our outside counsel for workers' compensation. One of them, we do have two. Mr. Gilliard has indicated for the past few years his willingness to, or his desire to want to slow down, and so additionally we thought it also imperative to have another attorney who was involved, which is Mr. Finnerty. We'll talk about him on the next agenda item, but we have been very satisfied with the work that Mr. Gilliard has provided. For fiscal year 2021, $12,927.02 was paid out to Mr. Gilliard for his work. All of that is included in the workers' compensation budget for the prior year. With that, happy to answer any questions, but I do recommend approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
We
Oh,
have-
move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Excuse me. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 9 passes. Item number 10, please.
Consider approval of a professional service agreement for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022 with Mr. Michael Finnerty, attorney at law, to provide representation for the city in workers' compensation court or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as just stated, Mr. Finnerty is our other counsel that we have engaged to split the workers' comp cases that we do have. The amount that was paid last year, well, during the current fiscal year, to Mr. Finnerty is $13,314.60. Again, this comes out of the Workers' Compensation Fund. We have been very pleased with Mr. Finnerty's representation and are especially happy that he is local. So with that, I do recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes.
I can honestly say Mr. Finnerty is a great attorney. I've used him several times, and he does take care of business. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 10 passes. Item number 11, please.
Consider approval for the police department to purchase 19 sets of ballistic body armor in the amount of $64,477.47 on a sole source bid from TYR Tactical for the Special Operations Team or take other necessary action.
Chief Teehee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a replacement of outdated and expired body armor for the Special Operations Team. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Chief Teehee, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for the leadership that you've done during times in which law enforcement has suffered so much in terms of not being able to recruit. We want to also be certain that we commit ourselves to you in this future budget, that we don't wait until some of our equipment is falling by the wayside until you guys get what you need. So we will be committed to be certain that you guys have everything you need, as well as without other departments, but particularly in our public safety. So thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 11 passes, and that is our final item. So to,
Mr. Chairman, may I, suspend the rules and be recognized in the 3 minutes.
we have a request from Ivory Van. Do we have a motion? to give Councilor Van 3 minutes? Call for it again. Do we have a motion to give Councilor Van 3 minutes? Third time. Do we have a motion to give Councilor Van 3 minutes? Councilor Van fails, and so with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.